Do you ever wonder if our Love Island Season 12 winners, guys, are serious? Are Toni and Cash serious about each other? Is Toni serious about Cash? I wonder.
Are me and Toni gonna get married? Are me and Toni gonna get married?
We are married.
There you go. I think Toni's very serious about Cash. I'm not sure how Cash feels about that. But hey, that's Cash's problem, not mine. My dog is barking outside, by the way. Sorry about that. I think there's something really interesting in the garden. Maybe you know what it is. If you do, put a comment below and let me and the dog know. Now, those of us who know about Love Island will always know how the ratings are doing. You know, we study the ratings, see how they're going, and sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not so good. But if you think Love Island has been tanking in the ratings, which it really hasn't, the last season did kind of okay. Standard viewing figures that they are pleased with are now like 1 million per episode. The BBC recently launched an alternative to Love Island, guys, called Stranded on Honeymoon Island with Davina McCall. Maybe some of you have been watching it. It's been on BBC One, so the flagship channel, and sadly it has really tanked. The last viewing figures for the show were 500,000. Now, 500,000 might be okay if it was streaming, 500,000 might be okay if it was on BBC Three or BBC Four. In fact, for BBC Four that'd be record-breaking, but it's not the kind of programme BBC Four would ever show. But for BBC One, that's very bad. The premise of the show is very simple. I'm sure you know it. Basically, couples who've recently got married end up stranded on a paradise island. So it's a kind of combination of Married at First Sight meets Love Island sort of thing. And I've watched a little bit of it, but I've got to be honest, it commits that TV crime that we all hate of just being boring. So I'm not surprised it hasn't done that well. Do you think there is a show that could rival Love Island? Because when you think about it, all these shows, these reality dating shows, Love Island is still kind of the king of them. You know, it has a very strong following. It tends to get the most traction on social media and in the press. Compared to the others, even, you know, Married at First Sight, all that kind of stuff, it tends to get the most traction and the most attention. So Love Island, I guess, is a formula that seems to work. And shows like Stranded on Honeymoon Island, and, you know, what is that other one? There's one on Paramount Plus, which is where they're all naked. There's Olivia Attwood's one, Bad Boyfriends. I just think all these shows are kind of knockoffs of Love Island, and they just don't really seem to work. Harrison and Lauren. Isn't Harrison hilarious, the way he sometimes tries to trip up Lauren?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Now, I know he meant that as a joke, but if she'd actually fallen flat on her face, I don't think he'd be laughing, she'd be laughing, or we'd be laughing. I didn't even laugh at that. To be quite honest, I'm like, listen, if I tried to do that to my wife, she would not be very happy with me. However, Lauren seems to think it's funny. Harrison seems to be a bit laddish about it. I don't want to judge anymore because no doubt I'll get nasty comments. But why am I focusing on Harrison and Lauren? Well, for some inexplicable reason, they seem to have bagged some serious deals, guys. And I have to be honest, I was not expecting it for these two. I thought, you know, they'd just kind of fade away because even though there was a lot of drama around Harrison and Lauren, and of course Harrison left the programme, he did an Uma, left the programme early to follow Lauren into the forest of love, let's call it that. But I just thought they'd eventually just go their separate ways. In fact, I'm surprised they're still together. But they seem to have bagged some significant deals. Have a look at this. Love Island's Harrison Solomon and Lauren Wood both bag 5-figure brand deals as couples soar to success despite footballers' controversial villa stint. Love Island's Harrison Solomon had a controversial stint at the villa this summer, shamelessly going back and forth between two women before eventually leaving the show with Lauren Wood. But despite the controversy surrounding his appearance, both Harrison and his partner Lauren seem set for success. The Daily Mail understands the couple have both secured 5-figure brand deals since leaving the villa in July, with Harrison signing on to partnerships with Boohoo Man and Fashion Nova. The brand deals valued in the tens of thousands signal Harrison's budding success across the fashion and beauty industry. Meanwhile, his partner Lauren has also carved out a path as an influencer, signing with Force One Management, the powerhouse agency representing Ekin-Su, Molly Smith and Tom Clare. Now, be honest, did you expect this for these two? Because I certainly didn't. In fact, I thought the next thing I was going to hear from Harrison and Lauren was they are no longer an item, but I have been dumbfounded by this. Now, earlier this month, I reported that Lachlan was apparently suing Whitney. Okay, not season 12 news, but news from Love Island nonetheless. Turns out that was a bit premature, because Whitney revealed on social media that apparently he hasn't sent her any sort of legal documentation yet. She put up a post which said the following: "I've seen a lot of press reports over the past week claiming that Lachlan is suing me. To be clear, he hasn't issued proceedings against me. As I've told his lawyers, if Lachlan really believes that I'm lying about what has been said, issue his legal claim against me and let a court decide who is telling the truth. Appreciate all your support." Whitney. I suppose what concerns me about this is that we were led to believe he was suing her and that he had issued papers. So I'm not quite sure what's going on, but for Whitney to say she spoke to his lawyers suggests that one of his lawyers must have reached out to Whitney, otherwise she wouldn't have a lawyer to respond to. So he's definitely gone to lawyers, but he's not officially suing her yet. So just a correction there. My concern is that this was a scare tactic and that he's probably not going to do it after all, which I think is not good because it suggests it was some sort of PR stunt or just a move to kind of rattle Whitney's cage, which of course is, I don't know, a bit of a bullying tactic. But we'll see what happens. You know, it all comes out in the wash, doesn't it? And on the subject of all coming out in the wash, Tom and Molly, that's not a link. There's no link here between washing laundry and this next bit, but I've said it now, so I have to continue. Tom and Molly, guys, their engagement video. Did you see it? Did it ring any bells? It looked a bit to me like Luca's video to ask Grace to be his girlfriend. Let's run them side by side, and Tom's is much longer than Luca's, so I'll have to kind of cut Tom's up a bit. But I suppose my question is, who did it better? And of course, the other question raised is, Tom did that to ask his girlfriend to marry him. Luca did that to ask Grace to be his girlfriend. So what's Luca gonna do when he has to ask Grace to marry him if Luca decides to do that? I don't know. Maybe he'll have to do like a helicopter jump, or maybe he'll have to ask her while they're water skiing, or maybe he'll ask her in McDonald's. Anyway guys, thoughts below on how you think Luca could better Tom's video here and surprise Grace. This is of course if they actually get married, which they may not. Just putting it out there. But anyway, I look at these things and I think, wow, you guys and your videos, I just think, you know, I never did any of this when I asked my wife to marry me. And I think, gosh, she must be so disappointed. I didn't do balloons, I didn't have a violinist, I didn't have a sandy beach. But what I did have was a very cheap ring and a sunny day. But never mind, it's all done now and there's no turning back. Thanks for watching, comments below, and I'll catch you later for another video. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.